Hello and welcome to yet another amazing session with me, your English teacher Shweta Roy. And today we are going to delve into a wonderful and an adventurous story. We are not afraid to die if we can all be together. That is pretty long title. That's a pretty long title. But the story is really adventurous, and as you can see from the backdrop, it deals with a sea story, right? An adventurous story, a survival story by Gordon Cook and Alan East. Now, before I start with this chapter, one question from my end, and I want all of you to comment in the comment section. Have you ever encountered any kind of adventure? Do you like adventures? If yes, then please let me know. Share your adventure story and how did you feel? What lesson did you learn from that whole adventure? If you came out successful, if you came out victorious. Okay, so before I begin with the story, I would like to share a beautiful and very thought-provoking quote by our own William Shakespeare, which says, "Cowards die many times before their deaths. The valiant never taste of death but once." Now, this particular quote is from Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. I'm sure you must have heard. It's a very popular quote. Now, this talks about the act of bravery, valiance, right? Valiant people are those who are brave, who encounter a lot of difficulties, but at the same time, they have the strength, the fortitude to overpower those difficulties, to overcome those difficulties. And if you don't have that kind of bravery, if you are a coward, what will happen? You will fear death. Death is something which is inevitable, right? Now, physical death, we all have to face physical death once in our life, right? But if we are cowards, we will be afraid of that physical death, and in the process we will die multiple deaths already. We will have died multiple deaths already before we reach that ultimate physical death, which is universal to all, which is the inevitable truth of our life, right? So that is Shakespeare's perspective, and I quite agree with this. And this is definitely talking about the strength that we should have in our mind so that we don't have to die multiple times before we encounter our final death. So before I start with the story again, important words and phrases which you should know, because this story deals with the ship and the sea and the struggle and the whole adventure surrounding the sea. So yes, you need to know these terms, these technical terms before we start with the story, because there are a lot of technical terms in the text. So first is voyage. What's a voyage? It's a long journey by sea or space. Then seafaring is regularly traveling by sea, that is seafaring. Now there's a phrase in the story, honing seafaring skills, which means improving your skills. Seafaring is traveling by sea, so improving your skills which are required to travel by sea. Jib. Jib is another technical word which is important. It's a triangular stay sail that you will find in the ship. I will be showing you the picture also so that you become more familiar with that. Knots is a unit equivalent to 1 nautical mile per hour. Please note, 1 nautical mile per hour. That's a knot. Mooring, the ropes, chains or anchors by which or to which a ship or boat is moored. And then we have stern. Stern is the back part of a ship. Oilskins, very important. Heavy cloth. Those clothes are waterproofed with oil. Okay. Capsize, you all know, capsizing means to be overturned. Taut is stretched or pulled tightly. Boom is a pole that controls the angle and the shape of the sail. Keel, it's a steel structure along the base of the ship. Now another phrase which is important, which has been highlighted in your text, that is pinpricks in the vast ocean. Now pinpricks means what? The prick of a pin, which is very insignificant, right? In the vast ocean. Ocean is very vast. So here they are talking about two small islands which they encounter. They are comparing those two islands, the length, the area of those two tiny islands were very, very small and insignificant compared to a pinprick. Okay. in comparison with the vast ocean. So that is why pinpricks in the vast ocean. Then we have rigging. Rigging, the ropes and wires supporting the structure of the ship. Hull is the framework of the vessel, and sextant is an instrument for measuring the degrees. Okay, the altitudes and navigation. Very, very important, these technical terms. Now we will be familiar and acquainted with the writers of this particular story. Gordon Cook, he's a Canadian Olympic sailor. He sails for the Royal Canadian Yacht Club, and he's the son of Stephen Cook and Linda Cook. He has really great interest in writing stories, and his co-author is Alan East. These are the writers. Okay, the pictures are shown here. He was admitted to the role of solicitors in 2003 and has gained extensive experience as a litigator, manager and legal trainer. So he is into law. 2010, Alan joined Coventry University as a senior lecturer in law. So these were the two writers. Now, why am I talking about James Cook over here, who is a British explorer, navigator, cartographer? Cartographer is a person who makes maps, okay? And captain in the Royal Navy. Very, very important personality from the perspective of this story, because this story's narrator and his family, they are trying to replicate the historical round the world voyage which was undertaken by this person, that is Cook, in the year 1768. Very, very important. So Cook had taken this voyage in the year 1768, and in the story the narrator and his family is trying to replicate that particular historical voyage. Now this is the route of the voyage. Please note, Plymouth, England to Cape Town, South Africa. Okay, I will show you the routes of Captain James Cook's voyages. These are the routes of Captain James Cook's voyages. The first voyage is shown in red. The red marked voyage is the first one. Green colored mark is the second one, and the third one is marked in blue. And you can see the dashed mark. Okay, that route is the crew, James Cook's crew. Okay, who followed his death. So that voyage is marked in the dashed line, right? Now, parts of the ship, this you should be familiar about because there is a mention of all these parts. So this is the mast, this is the mainsail, this is the boom. Remember, we talked about boom when I was dealing with the technical terms, right? This is the cockpit, stern, rudder, this is the rudder, support system, cabin, and the bow. You should be familiar with all of these, right? So now, introduction to the story. This particular story, as you can see, we are not afraid to die. That is the title, okay? If we can all be together. So two important points from this particular title that we can conclude. One is, not afraid means it's talking about the courage, the fortitude, the strength of mind, right? And togetherness, if we can all be together, talks about togetherness, unity. Okay, so the story describes how, of course it's a struggle story, so how a mighty wave broke over them and damaged the ship badly when they were in that voyage. But with much optimism and fortitude, the crew struggled and how they survived. It is their survival story, it is their story of struggle and how they came out of it to reach the isle Amsterdam in the Indian Ocean. Okay, so this is a first-person account of the adventurous ordeal that one family experiences. Now, who all are there in the family? Let us find out. The narrator is there. Mary is the narrator's wife, and Jonathan is the 6-year-old of the narrator, who's a little boy and who has great wisdom to understand the importance of family, and he only says, what he says is the title of the story: we are not afraid to die if we are together. Then we have Suzanne, who is the narrator's 7-year-old daughter. The qualities that she displays are patience and perseverance. So she endures pain very bravely and remains silent despite the fact that she had got head injury. Badly she was injured in the head, but still she remained silent. She endured that pain because she understands the gravity of the situation that they were in, and she behaves very, very maturely, much beyond her age. Then we have Larry Vigil and Herb Seigler. These were the first one is an American crewman and the second one is a Swiss crewman. Okay, now we will delve into the story. The summary of the story basically. So this narrator, who is a 37-year-old businessman, and his wife, they have dreamt, specifically it was the narrator's dream, to voyage around the world, and they wanted to replicate the famous Captain James Cook's voyage, as I already told you. For the past 16 years, they have been waiting, they have been perfecting their seafaring skills, and they have also got a professionally built boat. The name of the boat is Wave Walker. Quite interesting name, right? The boat has been also tested for months so that it can endure the roughest of the weathers. Okay, now this voyage begins in the year in the month of July in the year 1976. It starts from, as I told you, I showed you the route, Plymouth, England. Now the initial period proves to be quite pleasant, but before heading east, they employ two crewmen. These two crewmen I have already told you. I have already introduced the two crewmen, Larry Vigil and Herb Seigler, to help them tackle one of the world's roughest seas, that is the Southern Indian Ocean, right? Now the second day they encounter very, very strong winds and alarming waves. By December 25, they managed to reach 3,500 kilometers east of Cape Town. Despite bad weather, the family still celebrates Christmas in the ship itself. However, what happens to the boat with passing time, the situation is even worse. And there is a catastrophic attack of the huge wave. Early morning, January 2nd, they face a very strong and mighty waves and screaming winds. So they attempt to slow down. How are they slowing down? Now they are dropping the storm jib. This is the jib, okay? This is the jib, this is the mast, the mainsail and the boom. Please look at the structure, okay? And they carry out the life raft drill to prepare themselves for the worst scenario. How? By wearing life jackets and oilskins. Later, again, huge tremendous wave hits the deck of the boat and throws the narrator off the boat. He accepts the approaching death and he starts to lose his consciousness. The boat is just about to overturn, but what happens? There is another huge wave and that turns the boat back. So now the boat is straight, right? And then there is a fight for survival. So this is how they constantly they are encountering large and mighty waves and roaring winds, and he finally realizes that there is water in the lower parts of the ships, and he instructs Mary, his wife, to take the wheel while those two crewmen, they start to pump out the water. Then he has to also check on the children in the cabin. Sue has got injured in the head. Okay, she has developed a bump, but then he does not have the time to pay attention to that. And then the narrator begins to waterproof the holes, the gaping holes. Most of the water has now deviated to the sides by the continuous consistent effort. However, the hand pumps block due to the debris. So because of the debris, what has happened to the hand pumps? They have got blocked. And the electric pump gets short-circuited, unfortunately. But finally, they have a spare electric pump also, and they connect it to an out pipe in order to drain the water. They keep pumping, they keep steering all day, all night long. And even their alarm calls, the mayday calls are alarm calls, emergency calls, what you call as SOS calls nowadays, right? They are also not answered because they are in the remotest corners of the world. So of course no one is able to hear them. And Sue has also got her head injured. She has gotten swells. Okay, her eyes have gone black. She has a deep cut on her arm, but still, she says, when she's asked about her injury, she says that she doesn't want her father to be bothered about her injury. because her father is busy, he must be busy trying to save the whole family, and in that he should not deviate his thought on her injury, right? So that kind of courage is shown by this little girl. The family manages to survive 15 hours since the wave hit the boat. Okay, the water levels are controlled to a considerable level, but they still have leaks in the water line. And then they started to work in shifts, in rotations, right? Now, their ultimate destination is Australia, where they will not be able to reach because of the very poor condition. Okay, so what did they decide? To reach the nearest island in Amsterdam. Okay, unfortunately the chances to reach that island is also very bleak because of the wind and the sea. Okay, so the sea has to subside, the wind has to subside only then, and the supporting engine also has been damaged, right? Now, January 4 and 5, after pumping out water continuously for 36 hours, they finally have a sigh of relief, because now only very less water has remained to be pumped out. Now they decide to hoist the storm jib, because the main mast, I have shown you what is the main mast, that main mast has been destroyed. So now they have to hoist the storm jib. Okay, and then they are heading towards the island. For the first time in 2 days, they are finally having their first meal. But again, their relief is short-lived because the weather again starts to get worse. And January 5, they are left desperate once again. Now let us see what kind of courage does Jonathan show. Now the narrator is trying to console the children, because now he himself has gone very pessimistic about the condition. He thinks that he will not be able to save the family, right? But then Jonathan says that he is not at all afraid as long as they are all together. This boosts the morale of the narrator, and this fills him with determination and courage to fight the sea. Okay, now the ongoing struggle, they are all struggling to get to the land finally, and his continuous efforts finally shows some results, some good results. What happens? He is thinking, Sue gives him a greeting card, and so Sue also gives him a greeting card, his daughter, expressing her love, gratitude and optimism. So these little acts of the children, these brave acts of the children constantly starts to boost the morale. And finally, he instructs Larry to steer a course of 185 degrees, saying that if they are lucky, they will be able to find the island. And then he goes to sleep with a heavy heart, but because somehow he believes that maybe it will not be possible for him to save. But the ultimate victory, fortunately, happens by evening when he reaches Amsterdam. So on being informed of this, the narrator's joy knows no bounds, and Jonathan calls him the best captain, the best dad, the best father in the whole world, right? Soon they get offshore, and then they struggle to reach the island along with the inhabitants. So finally, they step on the land after such a turmoil and heavy battle that they had with the sea, right? It all happened because of the fact that they were all united together. The support, the kind of support that he received from his entire family, especially the children, right? So this is a story which provides a vivid account of the power of determination, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds of love and unity. This is the theme of the story. And it is not here, it talks about the struggle with the sea, but if you take this metaphorically and incorporate it in your life, the values that we learn from this story is definitely the importance of inner strength, determination, and most importantly, teamwork in the face of adversity. So in our lives also, we will encounter a lot of adversities. It might not be related to sea, but of course it is a symbol of difficult times in our lives, right? We have to sail through those difficult times, and that can only happen if we are all together, right? So the character's unwavering resolve, so we should have that resolute nature, and the refusal to give up. Okay, the desperate nature, the refusal to give up despite overwhelming odds. So we will also face a lot of odds in our life which would overwhelm us, but we should have the spirit that to endure, the capacity to endure, right? The family bond, unity is very important. Family support is very important, because it is one of the important factors that helped the family's survival in this particular story, and it is applicable in each one of our lives. So unity, teamwork, resilience, determination, unbreakable bonds of love and unity, all these are very, very important. So if we have a harrowing experience like the one that the family faces, of course it might not be with the sea, but it could be in various aspects of our life. We must not give up, and we must have these qualities so that we can come out victorious, just like the family. So before ending the chapter, I have a question for all of you. Now this question can be asked in your exam. The question is, the reaction of the crew and the children gives us an insight into the human mind. So this chapter not only deals with the physical endurance, it also talks a lot about the emotional turmoil, in the emotional condition. As I told you over here, you can see the psychological and emotional toll of the journey. Yes, so yes, it deals into the human mind. So how can it help us save any disaster? So this is what we got, the lesson that we have got from the chapter. The unwavering spirit, how the crew members reacted, okay, the spirit of optimism that was shown by the children, how they showed amazing maturity and resilience even in the face of such a big disaster. They remained strong, they remained composed, right? And how they showed courage, how they showed patience. So adopting a courageous attitude in times of difficulties, that is the motivating factor, and that was the motivating factor for the narrator as well. You can also use the quote which I had given you at the beginning of the lesson from William Shakespeare, that will give that will enrich your answer, right? And you can end the story by saying how inspiring the story is, and how if we accept the difficulty and if we are ready to face it with a brave front, very soon the difficulty will fade away. At the end of each tunnel, there is always a light, right? So we need to be positive, and we need to not lose our faith in ourselves, so that we can help ourselves and others to survive any disaster. Right? So the author over here, both the authors, they depict the deep love and commitment of the family members, and how they facing challenges together can make individuals strong and enable them to overcome any difficulty, any insurmountable obstacle that they have in our life. This is the lesson, this is the takeaway for all of us. So I would like to end the chapter. I hope you all enjoyed this wonderful survival story, and you definitely have got some motivation in all of you, right? So I would like to end the story with a famous quote by Thomas Carlyle. The quote says, "The person without a purpose is the ship without a rudder." Think about the quote and let me know in the comment section how far do you agree with the quote, and do not forget to share your own adventure story and your learnings from your lessons from that particular experience that you have faced. It could be any kind of experience, any kind of difficulty that you have overcome, and the lessons that you have got from that particular difficulty. So that is all for today. I'm signing off, and we will meet soon. Before you leave, do not forget to hit the like button, share the video amongst your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. See you very soon with another amazing chapter in the next class. Take care. Bye-bye.